It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview Rob Rabinovitz, who is the book owner and a motivational speaker of the Jackie, Robertson, and Kid. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good, Brandon. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started as a motivational speaker?
Well, it was several years ago. It was the 40th anniversary of Jackie breaking the color line in baseball, and Major League Baseball was going to honor him. And I wanted to be part of it in some way, and I didn't know exactly how. So I called Major League Baseball in New York, and one person led me to the next. I ended up talking to the producer of the Game of the Week. It used to be on Saturday afternoons, a Game of the Week. And he had a half-hour show before the game. And I sent him a couple copies of letters for authenticity. And he was very impressed. And he said, unfortunately, I have Don Newcomb, Pee Wee Reese, Roy Campanella, and Rachel Robinson. Your story would get lost. And I said, well, I'm not looking for anything. I'm just looking to tell a story of a man and a boy. And he said, I just hung up with a reporter from the Chicago Sun-Times. Give him a call. So I gave him a call. He called me back. We spoke for an hour on the phone. He ended up flying up to Minneapolis, where I live. And we spent the whole day together. And as I'm driving him back to the airport, I said, Brian, how big of an article do you think this will be? And he said, well, the Sun-Times is kind of like a tabloid type format. It'll probably be 2 pages. Well, it came out that Sunday. It was a 4-page story. And he won an award from the AP as the best public interest story of 1987. Then the Minneapolis Star and Tribune called and they wanted to do a story. And then I got a call from the school, would I come in and talk? And I said, I'd love to. So I go in the classroom and I said, all right, kids, how many ever heard of Jackie Robinson? And this little boy stood up and said, no, who is she? And I said, who is she? And then I realized, how would they know? So that was the beginning. I became like a Pied Piper because I didn't want anyone ever to forget him. He was my hero, and we were very, very close friends. I grew up in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and my father had told me stories about the Dodgers and about Jackie. And he was always a Dodger fan because the Dodgers gave Jackie the opportunity to play Major League Baseball. So he said to me one day, he says, how would you like to meet him someday? And I said, boy, would I love that. But unbeknownst to me, he had written Jackie a letter. He didn't want to tell me about it because he didn't want me disappointed in case Jackie didn't respond. One day I came home from school and laying on my bed, face down, was an envelope. The back of the envelope said Jackie Robinson. And I grabbed it and I ran to the kitchen. I said, Mom, I got a letter from Jackie. And I called my dad at his office. I opened up the letter and there was an autographed picture. And he said, next time the club's in Milwaukee playing the Braves, he'd love to meet me. At that time, the Atlanta Braves were the Milwaukee Braves. So we went to a Dodger Brave game. And after the game, we went down to the locker room and waited for him to come out. When he came out, I ran up to him with about 50 other kids who were looking for autographs. And I said, Jackie, I'm Ronnie Rabinovitz. Do you remember me? He said, sure I do. And my dad's standing over my shoulder. And he said, sure, Jackie, with the thousands of letters you get, how would you remember? He said, no, I remember. Your dad wrote me on lawyer stationery. my father was an attorney. And from that time on, he said to me, stay in touch. And I said, my God, he wants to hear from me. So I wrote him a letter, Jackie Robinson, Stamford, Connecticut, no address, no zip code. He got it. He wrote to me, Ronnie Rabinovitz, Sheboygan, Wisconsin, no address, no zip code. I got it. And this began the friendship that lasted almost 20 years until the time he passed away. So we got together many, many times for dinners and lunches and in Milwaukee. And he was just a terrific guy. My birthday's in September, and we were at the Dodger Brave game in Milwaukee. It was my 10th birthday. We made arrangements for Jackie to come with us after the game. We got in our car and we went down to a restaurant in downtown Milwaukee. And I had a birthday party, my 10th birthday party. And here I had Jackie Robinson standing there singing happy birthday to me, or sitting there. I was so excited. It just was one of those wonderful things I'll never forget. It was probably my best birthday. And, you know, he was a terrific guy. One time he came out of the locker room and the team was getting on the bus to go back to the hotel because the series wasn't done yet. And I was walking with him and talking to him, and the guys were getting on the bus and he was signing a few kids' autographs. And here comes a priest with a whole parish full of kids, and they all want autographs. And he's standing there signing and signing. Pretty soon the guys on the bus are opening the windows. Come on, Jackie, you're holding us up. And you know what he did? He went back to the bus driver and he said, you know what, take the guys back to the hotel. I'll take a cab. And he stood there and he signed every kid's autograph. That's the type of guy he was. Of course, he didn't have to take a cab. We gave him a ride. But that certainly was the way he was. One time, you know, it takes about 45 minutes to an hour before the ball players come out of the locker room after the game. And, you know, kids are impatient. You're standing there in these balls of the stadium and these gray walls, and nothing else to look for. And there was a sign on the door. It said, warning, do not enter, trespassing, you could go to jail. And we read that over and over and over. And then we would watch the door handle. If it turned, we knew someone was coming out. So one day he came out and he said, come here, like this. And he took me into the locker room. And the first thing I said is, oh my God, I'm going to jail. And he laughed and he said, no, he said, you're with me, you don't have to worry. And he grabbed a brand new ball out of a bag. And he took me from locker to locker to locker. All my heroes, Duke Snyder, Pee Wee Reese, Roy Campanella, Carl Furillo, Gil Hodges, they were all there shaking my hand, patting me on the back. Sandy Koufax was a rookie that year. I was just numb. He was so busy getting autographs for me that he actually forgot to sign a ball himself. But I got many other autographs from him.
That's so amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes, that's so amazing.
One time we were at a game in Milwaukee and Jackie had a bad game. He had struck out 4 times. And the 4th time he struck out, he was kind of frustrated and he kind of, in disgust, he kind of flung his bat back toward the dugout. And unfortunately, the bat sailed on him, hit the top of the dugout and went into the stands. This woman claimed she was hit by the bat, and he felt terrible. And that night, he took a cab to her house to apologize in person. She didn't want anything to do with it. She got a lawyer. She was going to start a lawsuit and all this. But we got back to Sheboygan, and the phone rang, and it was Jackie. And he said, Ronnie, can I talk to your dad? And he talked to my dad and he told him what happened. And my dad said, let me see what I can do. Well, it turned out that the woman that she hired for the lawyer was one of my dad's best friends. And it turned out that the bat never hit her. It hit the railing in front of her seat, but never touched her. But because she didn't like African Americans, she wanted to start trouble. And of course, everything was dropped, but I thought, how terrible that anybody would want to do that to him. Jackie used to play second base or third base. This particular day, he was playing left field, and a line drive went past him and rolled all the way to the fence. He missed it. And we had dinner that night. I said, Jackie, that was a tough play. And he says, tough heck. He says, Ambrose would have had it. Sandy Ambrose was a rookie left fielder. He was fast and he was young. And he said, Ronnie, I want to tell you a secret that no one else knows except my own family. He says, I think next year will be my last year in baseball. My legs are gone. And the following year, 1956, after the 1956 season, he did retire. And I cried and I thought, my God, I'll never see him again, you know. I wrote him a letter about that. And he told me his own son, Jackie Jr. was crying. And he assured both of us that everything would be okay. And it turned out it was, because he did come back to Wisconsin many times. He was very active with an organization called the National Conference of Christians and Jews. He also came back for sports banquets and other functions. So he let us know when he's coming, and we would spend the afternoon with him, or the evening, or the weekend in some cases. So I saw him many, many times. One time he was in Birmingham, Alabama. He spoke there. And as he went back, he was coming to Milwaukee. So he went back to the airport to catch his plane in Milwaukee. And there was a big sign on the locker room, on the waiting room, that said whites only. And he sat down, and the police came there and they were going to arrest him. And then they found out he was Jackie Robinson. They left him alone. But when he got off the plane in Milwaukee, he was pretty disturbed. And he said, Ronnie, if my name would have been Paul Jones or John Smith or anybody else, I'd have been in jail today because of the color of my skin. Those are things we have to change. So he's quite a guy, quite a wonderful man.
Can you talk about, of course, the process of writing the book, the Jackie Robinson and the Kid, and what?
Okay. Okay, sure, I'll be happy to. It's actually called Always Jackie. It's not. This is the cover of the book right here. And I picked that title because in his letters, he'd always end his letters, always, comma, Jackie. So I used that title for the book. And I had a publisher in Mankato, Minnesota, not too far from Minneapolis, who was very interested in doing this story. And he did it. The book was selected by Amazon as the best nonfiction children's book of the year, which I thought was really wonderful. It's been doing very, very well. And as I say, it's called Always Jackie. So I put it together, and then I had a co-author with me, J. Patrick Lewis. And the book came out, and it's been doing very, very well.
What has the book tours been like for you? Of course, have you done any during COVID, or
I'm sorry?
have you done any book tours with Always Jackie during COVID, and what has the book tours been like for you, sharing your story?
Well, unfortunately, with COVID, it kind of everything stopped. You know, I did a book signing at a Barnes and Noble in Minnetonka, Minnesota. And I had another one scheduled, and then everything was canceled. But now that things are starting to open up again, we're starting to get more interest to do some more book signings. Plus, I go around the country and I speak to corporations, organizations, clubs, schools, universities. I've done that for many, many years.
What is it like to go to different baseball clubs to share your story?
Well, I enjoy telling the story. And as I say, I never wanted anybody to forget Jackie. And I'm very close to his wife, and who's still alive, by the way. She's 98 years old, God bless her. And she's just a wonderful person. The year after he passed away, she started the foundation called the Jackie Robinson Foundation, which is a scholarship program for children of color and minorities to go to college. They have the greatest graduation rate of any scholarship program in the United States, 98%, which is way, way double the national average. And Jackie would have been so proud because he loved education and he always encouraged me and other kids to stay in school and work hard.
What is it like being featured into the Baseball Hall of Fame?
Well, I was invited by the Baseball Hall of Fame. They flew me out there as a guest, and I'd always wanted to be there, Brandon, but I now to be there as their guest, I was really thrilled. Matter of fact, I spoke out there twice. They have an archive department in the basement that's not open to the public, and they took me down there, and I held Babe Ruth's bat, and I held Jackie's uniform. It was really thrilling to me.
What was that feeling of holding Jackie Robertson's uniform after, of course, growing up watching him and being around him?
Well, I loved him so much, and I actually started tearing up when I was holding that uniform because he was such a great guy. Now, I moved to Minneapolis in 1966, and I was a manufacturer's rep. I sold children's clothing to department stores and specialty shops. I traveled 6 states in the Midwest. So I'd get to New York a lot. And every time I'd get to New York, the first thing I would do was pick up the phone and call Jackie. And many times we'd have lunch. And sometimes if he was too busy, we'd just talk on the phone. And I was with him about 6 months before he passed away in New York. And we had lunch. And when he got out of the cab, he was in pretty rough shape. I was pretty shocked. He was blind in one eye. He was going blind in the other eye. He had had a heart attack and he suffered from diabetes. And I had him take him by the arm and help him into this restaurant. I felt so sad because I remembered him dancing up and down the basement, driving the pitchers crazy and everything. And he was so happy to see me, and he wanted to hear all about my family, and I, of course, about his. And afterwards, I hailed him a cab and got him settled in the cab, and I leaned and I kissed him on the cheek and told him how much I loved him. And as that cab disappeared into space, I was standing on that street corner with tears running down my cheeks because I knew I'd probably never see him again.
Of course, what was it like to have it be featured into the MLB documentary?
Well, all those things have happened by accident, Brandon. As I told you about this article in the Chicago Sun-Times, and then Minneapolis had an article. And then in 1997, on the 50th anniversary, the Star and Tribune did another story. And then the Minnesota Twins invited Rachel Robinson, and they were going to present her a check for $50,000 to the foundation. And there was a press conference at the Metrodome, and I was invited to be there. I had never met Rachel before. And after the press conference, I ran up to her and I said, Rachel, I'm Ronnie Rabinovitz. She said, you're Ronnie Rabinovitz? Oh my God. She hugged and kissed me. And she said, Jack loved you so much. And I brought all the letters and pictures to show her. And she was just thrilled. And that night she threw out the first pitch. And then she came up in one of the box suites and sat with me for about 5 innings. And we talked about our families. And then in 2007, on the 60th anniversary of Jackie breaking the color line in baseball, the USA Today did a front page story in their sports section. And then it went viral. Before that, it was a pretty local story, but it went viral, and I got calls from Canada and from Texas and from Florida and Arizona, all over the country. And then I was invited back into the Hall of Fame again. So I went a second time and had a great time there. And all these things have happened by accident. The Dodgers had two ball players that I happened to love. One was Juan Pierre, a center fielder, and Orlando Hudson, who was a second baseman. And they both loved Jackie. And Orlando Hudson said, not only do I love Jackie, but I'm playing for the Dodgers like he did, and I'm playing second base like he did. So I wanted to meet those two guys. So I made arrangements through the Dodgers to get on the field for batting practice in Milwaukee when the Dodgers played the Brewers. And they came over and they just flipped out. They just loved the story and the pictures of the letters and things. And then this woman came walking by and she said, "What's all this commotion here?" Well, she happened to be a producer for the MLB network. And she just was thrilled by this whole story. And we stayed in touch. And one day she called me and she said, our people love this story. We want to do a documentary about you and Jackie. So they did a documentary. They had Curtis Granderson was the host, and Dennis Haysbert. I don't know if you know that name, but he read the letters off camera. He's an African American with a beautiful, deep voice. He does the Allstate commercials, Dennis Haysbert, and he has a beautiful, deep voice. He read the letters off camera, and it was called Letters from Jackie, and it was nominated for an Emmy, which was wonderful. It was terrific. Then the St. Paul, there's a history theater, and they contacted me one day and they wanted to do a play about Jackie and I. So they commissioned this big playwright from Los Angeles. His name was Eric Simonson. He wrote the Broadway hit Lombardi that was on Broadway for a long time. And so he did this play, and they had someone playing me as a kid, and my father and my mother, Jackie Robinson, and Jack Kennedy, who was a very close friend of the family's. And it was called The Incredible Season of Ronnie Rabinovitz. And the play ran several years ago, and it was very, very good. Then I got an interview with, there's an online newspaper called The Week, and they interviewed me. And one day I got a call from Larry King's office in Los Angeles. He wanted me to come out, and he flew me out to do an interview. And that was so special because Larry King was a big Dodger fan, and he loved Jackie. He saw Jackie play a few times when he was growing up in Brooklyn. So we had a great time. So all these things have happened by accident. And then, of course, the book came out, and I'm just so thrilled with that. So all these things have happened by accident, but they've been wonderful.
That's so amazing. Have you had the opportunity to actually go to the Durham Bulls where Jackie Robertson's jersey is retired to see it?
No, but I did go when they were filming this Letters from Jackie. They brought me to New York, and one of the scenes was at the Met Stadium, and there's a big rotunda there in the beginning as you walk into the stadium, and it's all related to Jackie Robinson. And I mean, there's all kinds of sayings and pictures and things. It was really amazing. So that was a thrill. It was wonderful.
What is it like to see, of course, Jackie Robertson's jersey retired in Dodger Stadium?
I love it. Not only, excuse me, not only is its number retired at Dodger Stadium, But on April 15th, which was Jackie Robinson Day throughout baseball, every major league team wears number 42. And to me, it's so thrilling, heartwarming. I really love it.
Of course, on April 15th, on Jackie Robinson Day, are you always at Dodger Stadium?
No, I'm not always at Dodger Stadium, but living in Minneapolis, I'm at Target Field a lot on April 15th on the field when they honor Jackie. I also work part-time for the Minnesota Twins. They have tour groups that go through Target Field, students and teachers, and I speak there about 25 times a year with a PowerPoint presentation. And so I'm doing a lot of those things. It's been wonderful.
That's pretty amazing. What are some of your future plans with the book and in your public speaking career?
Well, I'm continuing my, this last year with COVID kind of put the damper on a lot of it. But it's now opening up again. And I'm looking forward to doing many speeches all over. I'm also working on another book, an adult book, which is just in the process now. So that hasn't been finalized yet, but I'm working with a terrific author by the name of Cindy James. And so we'll see what happens with that. But so far, the Always Jackie has done so well, and I'm very, very pleased.
Of course, with this new book you're writing, is it going to be about Jackie Robinson or something totally different?
Well, it'll be about Jackie Robinson. It'll be about Jack Kennedy. The Kennedys, my dad was very close to the Kennedy family. And my dad was a Democratic National Committeeman for the state of Wisconsin. He was the first Democrat in the country, in Wisconsin for sure, to endorse Jack Kennedy for president. So they were very close friends. Matter of fact, Jack and Bobby stayed at our home one time before he was president. He was a senator then. But my dad took me out of high school off and on for 6 weeks during the Wisconsin primary. And I traveled around the state with all the Kennedy family, got to know them all very well. I was the gopher. I would go for this and go for that. And I would help him. During a banquet, Jack never used to like to eat the food at the banquet because by the time he got to his food, it was usually cold. So he would be up in his suite and he'd say, Ronnie, get me the usual. And I'd run down the back steps to the kitchen. And the usual was a cup of clam chowder soup, peanut butter sandwich, and a glass of beer. And I would bring that to him. So that'll be, and there'll be a lot of focus in the book about my own father, who was a true hero in my day, in my life.
That's amazing. What advice would you give somebody looking to become a sports book author?
Well, first of all, they have to have a story. That's the first thing, and they have to have a dream, like I did. I made my dream a reality. It was so exciting. I wanted to do a children's book first, and now I want to do this adult book, which would be good for kids and for adults. So that's what I'm working on now. But all these things have happened, like I told you, by accident. And I've been in Washington, D.C. maybe 8 times speaking at George Washington University. And that was fun always. And I've been at the Unilever in New Jersey, a big corporation, and several other places, to universities and schools. And I'll speak to anybody who ever wants to listen to me telling my story.
That's so wonderful. Where can my listeners find you at on social media, along with finding your book, Always Jackie, at?
Well, first of all, Amazon, as I said, selected it as the best nonfiction children's book for the year. You can buy it at Amazon. And I also have a website, ronrabinovitz.com. That's Ron, RABINOVITZ, ronrabinovitz.com. And there's stories about the book and other stories. And the interview with Larry King is on there. And the clips from the letters from Jackie is on there, and several other things. It's a great website, and I think you would enjoy it. And I think your fans would enjoy it also. I also have a couple of letters here, excerpts from letters, and I'd like to read to you. After Jackie retired from baseball, he went to work for Chock full of Nuts, which is in New York, was a coffee shop, and they made coffee. So I got these letters, and this one is from Jackie, all handwritten. And he says, Ronnie, I'm happy to know everything went well at your bar mitzvah. I had invited him to my bar mitzvah and unfortunately couldn't have come. My schedule has been so busy, I've not been able to keep up with outside responsibilities. Ronnie, one of the things that pleases me most is our friendship continues, even though I am no longer connected with baseball. It is friends like you that make me feel that everything that happened was worthwhile. I hope we do get a chance to see each other soon. It seems when people are as far apart as we are, they have a tendency to forget. I hope we don't. My regards to the family. I hope everything continues to go well. Always, Jackie. And here was another letter. Dear Ronnie, it was good hearing from you again. I hope everyone is fine at home. My family is fine. We have had a nice summer, and with school just around the corner, we are getting prepared. You were very kind to say the nice things you did. I learned a long time ago that a person must be true to himself if he is to succeed. He must be willing to stand by his principles, even at the possible loss of prestige. He must first learn to live with himself before he can hope to live with others. I have been fortunate. God has been good to me, and I intend to work as hard as I can to repay all the things people have done for me. I appreciate your friendship and feel as long as you set a worthwhile goal and head for it, you will do well. Continued good luck. Give my regards to the family. Always, Jackie. Isn't that beautiful letters?
Yes, that is beautiful.
He sent me a telegram when I graduated from high school, congratulating me. I mean, it's been a wonderful relationship, and I've kept that message alive for all these years.
That's so wonderful. Thank you again, Ron, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with your story. And look forward to hearing more from you.
Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate it.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Ron, for your interview, and
Thanks
best of
again.
luck.
Take care, Brandon. Bye-bye.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.